Hong Kong, 1989. In a small currency exchanger, the owner is looking at a $100 bill. It looks perfect. The material, the print relief, the watermarks, even the shade of green. But something about it bothered him. He noticed a small anomaly in the shine of the security thread when he looked at the bill under an ultraviolet light. Puzzled, he took the bill to the bank to have it checked. A few days later, the bank called in experts. Their verdict was stunning. It was a fake, but so perfect that even the best experts could barely tell the difference from real dollars. But who was able to create the world's most perfect copy of a dollar worth more than 250 million? How exactly did this scheme work for decades? And why is it considered one of the most dangerous financial scams in history? At the end of the 1980s, America faced a new threat that could destroy the US economy and undermine the confidence of nations in the world's main currency, the dollar. The threat was perfect counterfeit $100 bills that gradually appeared in Hong Kong, Thailand, the Philippines, Singapore, and Europe. They all looked strikingly similar to the real ones and were of almost identical quality. So after the first reports of these fakes, the United States launched a large-scale investigation. The intelligence services put forward two hypotheses. Either it was the work of an extremely well-organized criminal group, or it was the work of a state. After all, most of the materials and equipment for creating such dollars could only be obtained through state diplomatic channels. The latter assumption was almost absurd. No country would dare produce another country's currency. It would be a direct challenge to the international order. But how else to explain such a large-scale operation? The It was a sophisticated operation that involved highly skilled chemists, engineers, and printers who had studied abroad. They used samples of real dollars to reproduce every detail, from the engraving of portraits to the location of security features. Each batch of banknotes was also thoroughly checked to avoid any mistakes that could expose their counterfeiting. The operation was led by Office 39, a top-secret organization in North Korea that reports directly to the country's leadership. It was created in the 1970s to provide financial resources for the regime. The main goal of Office 39 is to obtain foreign currency through legal and illegal channels to support the political elite and finance the country's strategic projects. Thus, due to numerous sanctions imposed by the UN and Western countries, North Korea lost access to international financial markets, and the production of superdollars allowed Pyongyang to receive hard currency without using official channels. Fake dollars were exchanged for real money, or used to purchase the necessary equipment and technologies. The U.S. intelligence agencies then began to investigate how Office 39 was able to distribute superdollars in such quantities abroad, circumventing sanctions. The millions of fake dollars being injected into international banks had to be stopped quickly, as it could potentially affect the U.S. economy, threatening inflation and undermine the U.S. reputation as a financial leader. Intelligence revealed that the bills were mostly illegally transferred through diplomatic channels, including North Korean embassies and international criminal networks. The superdollars were used to pay for smuggled supplies from countries that were willing to trade around sanctions. It is known that Pyongyang actively cooperated with Iran and Syria, among others. North Korea purchased dual-use technologies, such as uranium enrichment centrifuges, computers, and equipment for building missiles and nuclear warheads. More precisely, most of the superdollars were used to finance the nuclear program, which posed a direct threat to the security of the United States and its allies. In addition to financing military and nuclear programs, superdollars were used to ensure the loyalty of political elites and to maintain the army. This was an important element in maintaining the stability of the Kim Jong-il regime and later, the Kim Jong-un regime. So the United States began a series of measures to reduce the number of superdollars in circulation and make them more difficult to produce. In 1996, the United States redesigned the banknotes, significantly expanding security measures that made counterfeiting much more difficult. Watermarks were introduced in several places to check for clearance. The security thread embedded in the paper became visible only under ultraviolet light. Microprinting and color transitions were also changed. By 2003, the design had been implemented for all major denominations: $5, $10, $20, $50, and $100 bills. In addition, the United States began to cooperate with central banks and financial institutions around the world to identify superdollars. Banking institutions have received special instructions to recognize counterfeits, and merchants, particularly in Asia, where counterfeit money was often in circulation, received additional training. The United States also began to put pressure on North Korea through the UN and partners, but the DPRK denied any involvement. So as a result, the UN and financial organizations imposed new sanctions on North Korean banks and companies suspected of distributing counterfeit money. North Korean accounts in international banks were also frozen. In addition, U.S. intelligence agencies, together with foreign partners, have been effectively eliminating distribution channels. In the 2000s, the United States organized Operation Safe, which combined the efforts of intelligence agencies from several countries. They closed down suspicious banks, detained smugglers transporting superdollars, and seized large quantities of counterfeits in Southeast Asia, Europe, and the Middle East. All couriers, as before, indicated ties to North Korean diplomats. In 2005, agents raided the Delta Asia Bank in Macau. It was accused of money laundering for the DPRK. This was one of the first public cases in which an international bank was directly accused of cooperating with the North Korean regime. After that, Macau's banking sector was subjected to significant regulation, which in turn significantly complicated the DPRK's access to the global financial system. Thus, as a result of comprehensive actions by intelligence agencies and international partners in the mid-2000s, the United States managed to significantly reduce the spread of superdollars. The introduction of a new banknote design and tighter controls reduced the volume of counterfeiting. However, counterfeit bills still sometimes appear in circulation, indicating the presence of leftover batches produced in the DPRK. It is estimated that North Korea has produced more than $250 million worth of superdollars, making this scheme one of the largest currency counterfeiting operations in history. You can watch more interesting videos about financial scams and other related topics on my channel. Thank you for watching.